Hey everyone, it's Charlie with Great Legal Marketing, and today we are going to talk about the math of marketing, which may also be termed as the math of money for your business. Something that obviously is extremely important and you must understand in order to be able to grow your practice as much as possible and as fast as possible, while making you as much money as possible. Okay, so let's look at some of the math behind marketing. The very first number that we want to talk about is this number here on my right, which is the return on investment. This ROI, the return on investment, is the number one term you should always have in marketing, because the whole idea of it is when I send dollars out into the world, how many dollars do I get in return? When I make this investment, what is my return on it? Return on investment, your ROI. For example, if I spent $2,000 on a print ad, I want to be able to know that I got, say, at least $6,000 worth in legal fees for running that ad, whether that's from one client, two clients, three clients, or more. So when you understand your return on investment, you can make smart investments in other marketing. For example, this print ad that I mentioned is $2,000 on average when I run it, but every time I run it, I make $6,000. If that's a good number for me that also pays for staffing, that pays for the rent, etc., and makes me a tidy profit, I am going to find more places to run that ad. Very basic, very easy math. The other flip side of that is if this $2,000 ad brings in only $500 in legal fees, and that's only how good it is every single time, then I'm just going to stop running the ad, plain and simple, and try something else. By the way, that's a very smart thing that I just said about marketing, which is I'm not just going to take away that $2,000 and forget about that opportunity. I'm going to try something else until I prove that the print advertising medium just doesn't work for my particular firm. We know that it works for many firms, but maybe it doesn't work for yours in particular. Something that you can only know when you've tested to find your return on investment. Also, remember with return on investment, it may take a while to accrue. This is really important for attorneys that work on contingency fees, for example, personal injury attorneys, medical malpractice attorneys, some disability attorneys, is that your return on investment may take some time. So I could have run this print ad right over here comfortably, today, and then I may not know the actual payoff from running that one print ad that 1 month for another 6 to 24 months because we handle personal injury cases. So those car accident cases may take time to resolve. So having an accurate timeline for cases as well is important. One of the easiest ways to help structure this math is if you are, say, a car accident attorney is, okay, I'm getting this case this month, this person signed because of this print advertisement. I know that the average case for me is worth $10,000 to $15,000 in legal fees, so I'm going to go ahead and start constructing my math. Now, it's important that once you get to the end, that you do a final calculation. You may find that, I got 2 cases from this print ad back in July of 2015, and they resolved a couple of years later, but that particular print ad ended up pulling in people who have really nice cars and really great insurance, and each one of those cases ended up being worth $75,000 to our firm. Well, I realize it's 2 years later, but it's never too late to rerun a great piece of marketing. This is how you calculate return on investment and make smarter decisions in the future about your marketing. So, some of the metrics within your return on investment. The first one is cost per lead. And you'll see I have these little dials up here. These are meant to represent the idea of turning these dials. And you're really going to find that between cost per lead and cost per acquisition, that we want to dial in how much money we're willing to spend to get a lead. The very basic idea of cost per lead is how much money do I have to spend to get one single lead. In the legal field, this could be a very wide range of options. For example, if you're a traffic DUI attorney, you may be looking at anywhere from $50 to $500 on a cost per lead, depending on how good you are at making them clients. Now, if you're a high volume practice that just wants to get in a lot of leads in order to sift through, you're going to want to bring down your cost per lead, because in high volume practices, the final fees that you actually end up receiving tend to be lower. So you're going to want to look at your cost per lead and figure out the best way to, say, get a lead for only $50 rather than $250. And this means paying close attention to your marketing and figuring out when I ran this set of ads online, it brought in this number of leads, it cost me this much, we do the division, we figure out cost per lead. Well, this was good, or this was bad, or this is the best I ever had, so let's use this message everywhere. So that is the cost per lead. You have to remember, cost per lead is not the actual cost and the amount of money that you then made. It's not the final return on investment, but it did get you a number of leads. And this is a number that we want to be able to play with. Then we have our cost of acquisition or cost per acquisition. These terms are often used interchangeably, so I put them both up here for you. So this is an actual signed client, the real winner, right? You want to have the actual client signing on the dotted line, accepting you as their attorney. So the cost per acquisition is different from the cost per lead unless 100% of your leads become clients, in which case these two numbers would be the same. And I would like to meet you and talk with you about your practice because that sounds pretty exciting. But for most of us, we have more leads than we have actual clients. Now, in calculating our cost per acquisition, this very much has to do with looking at the similar number that you had over here and removing any leads that did not become clients or were not qualified for your practice. It may not be the type of case that you actually handle. See, cost per lead could include claims that are almost what you handle, but not quite, and then you're going to want to play with how that math works, and we'll talk about that in just one second. But the cost per acquisition is signed clients, the amount of money you spent on the advertising, and then make your division right there to find your cost per acquisition. Cost per acquisition could be thousands of dollars to get a single client in some of the higher end practices, whether it be a personal injury case or medical malpractice attorneys often have a very high cost per acquisition. So let's talk about moving these dials a little bit. So in the cost per lead, you may be instinctually thinking, well, I just want to drive that cost down, or even with your cost per acquisition, I only want to bring that cost down. Well, if you have a very high-end service and you're working towards high net worth individuals or people who have better insurance on average, then you may actually want to bump these numbers up. And let me explain the math real quick. Let's say right now you're spending about $250 to get a single lead into your firm, whatever the type of case it may be that you handle or the estates that you put together, or bankruptcy claims, etc. But you find that if you bump that number up to $500, you actually end up getting better leads who become an acquired client faster, more efficiently, and are worth more to your practice. So the argument then here is, well, I should consistently try to find ways to spend $500 per lead because they tend to make better clients in the end, which raises my overall return on investment. See, all these numbers interact with one another, and twisting the dial here could change the dial over here. It's possible that if you spent more on your cost per lead, that your actual cost per acquisition may come down because you're only driving the most qualified leads to your practice. So this is the math of marketing right here. It's very much a matter of accurately tracking where you're getting cases from. So remember that it all starts with tracking. Tracking phone numbers can be purchased from calltrackingmetrics.com. You can use the Google URL builder to build custom forwarding URLs. Do some research on that. It would be far too lengthy of a tutorial for me to give you inside of this video. And you should always be asking every caller, how did you find out about us? That's a very simple metric that you can use to improve the accuracy of your cost per lead, cost per acquisition, and your return on investment with individual advertisements. All right, everyone, I'm Charley Mann with Great Legal Marketing. This is the math of marketing. Go apply it to your practice. It will make a huge difference in your ability to scale up, to hire new employees, and to ultimately make you a heck of a lot more money. Okay, if you're interested in making more money and getting more clients for your practice, you need to check out the URL below to find out how you can get a 2-month free trial membership with Great Legal Marketing so you can learn how to amp up the marketing in your practice and change those dials to be of greater benefit to you and to ultimately bring in more revenue.